When working with students, we implement the 3 S's, all right? And the 3 S's stand for stance, space, and swing. All 3 of these have to be on point or the rest of the fundamentals break down, and that's what we're sharing today. First up is the stance.
All right, guys, so up first is the stance. We're gonna start with the feet, move on to the hands. A lot of people just don't give this enough credit. This is really important. I know it's not sexy, but if you're doing this wrong, everything else is gonna fall apart behind it. So let's talk about the feet first. It's really important to get a wide stance and to have all of your weight on your toes. I know you can't see this right now. All of my weight is forward. If you came up and you pushed me in the back, I would fall forward. You could slide a sheet of paper under each one of my heels. And this is important, and a big mistake we see a lot of players make is they're in this position, but all their weight's actually in their butt, and they have a hard time transitioning forward to their toes to go meet that ball. So the stance and what you're doing with your feet, largely important. Again, the summary: wide stance, weight on your toes, ready to spring into action. Moving up to talking about your hands. So when you're in your ready position, your bottom hand, no matter what your grip is, has got to be your forehand grip. Your top hand, if you have a one-hander, is automatically up here on the throat. If you've got a two-hander, you've got a little bit more leeway, just depending on how athletic you are. Most rec players are going to start somewhere on the handle. If you really struggle with transitioning to that two-handed backhand, maybe you're going to start all the way down on your grip, but there's a little bit of flexibility here just based on what's comfortable. Most important part, once you've got your forehand grip on bottom, is that your racket is listing to your backhand side. You'll see here as I'm in ready position, my strings are pointing down towards my non-dominant side of my body. This gets me in position to really facilitate the point with my forehand.
Next up is space.
Space, the final frontier.
Not that space. The space that we're referring to is in the joint position, and it actually starts from the ready position. We want to make sure that we have our elbows out, and it should look like we have a beach ball that we're holding, hence beach ball spacing. And this space will be maintained throughout the stroke. Now, what we're measuring for good spacing here is the distance between the elbow and the hip. And this is absolutely critical as the stroke is initiated, because the more the elbow comes in, the more difficult it is to get the racket around. You can see here, the racket ends up on my non-dominant side of the body, stroke gets too big, and the timing breaks down. So I want to be able to maintain the space from the beginning of the stroke through the forward swing. Now the elbow will come in a little bit closer to my body here, but as you can see, that arm will have plenty of room to work forward, out to contact, and then we maintain the space at the finish. A great way to practice this, or just to kind of the litmus test to make sure that you have proper spacing: hold the racket with one hand at the butt cap, and then from the top, and then from here go through your stroke, and you'll see that it makes you stay in proper spacing. It's really hard to get this elbow to collapse in if you're staying true to the parameters of the stroke. And I, of course, can do this with the backhand as well. All right, so for consistency on the strokes, you've got to have proper spacing. And the final S is the swing. Now, the parameters of the swing can change. If you're rushed, it'll get shorter. If you have more time, it'll get bigger. But the bones of the swing are always going to stay the same. And this is whether it's a forehand, a backhand, even a slice. As Scott will show you here, the racket always starts high. It goes low. Keep going.
Lower?
Keeps going lower.
Lower.
And then it finishes high, right? Yeah, we got to get. So if we put it all together, right, Think about this from the ready position. So Scott's in his ready position, the racket is high. The unit turn keeps the racket high. He initiates the forward swing, it goes low, and then it again finishes high. The same thing on the backhand. So Scott, let's take a look at that real quick. On the backhand, orientation goes high, low, high, all right? And so the size of this, whether it's a capital C on a big stroke or a lowercase c, may change depending on the incoming ball. Now the last tidbit that we want to talk about is the orientation of the racket back behind you. This is why spacing is so critical. If Scott takes the racket back and the elbow tucks into his side, the racket will get behind him on the non-dominant side of the body. Therefore, the swing has to get really big to catch back out to contact. And he's going to have problems with consistency.
That's where you're hitting the ball late nonstop.
Nonstop and having issues with depth and just frankly missing the ball. So now as Scott creates proper spacing, you'll see that the racket stays on the dominant side until he fires forward and the racket hits the slot. Now this slot, as we've talked about in other videos, this just simply means that you're swinging out away from your body, almost as if he's swinging towards the side fence. You can see the slot, the orientation at 45 degrees. Racket plays catch up out to the ball and then to the finish. All right, so make sure for the swing, it's always high, low, high, and make sure that racket stays on the dominant side of your body, except for when the racket lags.
All right, guys, so quick 10-second summary here. If you want to understand the 3 keys to consistency, the first one is stance, 1 sentence or less.
Yep, that's a lot of pressure. Make sure you're getting wide, you're playing an inch or two below your height, and make sure that racket is oriented to your non-dominant side so you centralize the forehand.
Key number 2 is space.
All right, that goes along with the stance. We want to make sure the elbows start away from the body early. Space is maintained throughout the stroke, the distance between the elbow and hip. Remember the exercise of holding your racket from top to bottom and working through to find that space.
And numero 3 is swing.
Every swing, whether it's the forehand or the backhand, even the slice, we want to start high, then we go low, and then we finish high, all right? The only time the racket ends up on the other side of your body is with the slot. This creates the lag, and this is just the racket, not your arm.
That's right, guys. Hopefully this helps. Hopefully this will build some consistency for you off of both sides. If you like this video, tell us down below, drop some comments, let us know what you want to see more of, and definitely share this video with your friends so that they can be consistent as your practice partners. We'll see you guys soon.